You know, for as bad as Fallout 4 is, its armor system is admittedly pretty cool. The modular nature of it really allowed you to mix and match different sets. Not only did it sort of increase the visual variety in enemies, but it allowed for Under Armour stat bonuses to really mean something. Oh, and the fashion too, which is arguably the best part. Stat bonuses on clothing is something New Vegas does sort of struggle with, especially when the majority of sets that do provide some sort of benefit have really poor damage thresholds and resistances. So what if we could bring Fallout 4's system into New Vegas? Sounds impossible, right? Well, it's been done with the mod Patchwork Protection by ZomboCrom. There's 8 different armor parts sets that have been added in here, like leather, reinforced leather, metal, reinforced metal, combat, and finally 3 new Fiend armor sets. So I suppose this could kind of count as a Fiend overhaul too. It really does make them look a lot less uniform than they did in the vanilla game, and more like an actual tribe living in the ruins and outskirts of New Vegas that are having to scavenge around. All of these armor pieces can be worn over thin outfits, so things like vault suits, jumpsuits, and even more unique pieces like Benny's suit, which makes these sets, well, actually useful, considering they suffer from having a significantly low damage threshold or resistance by themselves. So having these extra pieces you can equip on top helps these armors stay more relevant. There's even 4 new outfits that have been added into this mod that can be worn as Under Armour, those being the Fiend Vault Suit, which has quite a dirty and open appearance, one that's fitting for a vault suit that's been worn by some of the most vile of New Vegas' population. The Fiend Harness visually is reminiscent of the harness sets from Fallout 4 and 76, but here it's been adapted to fit into New Vegas' art style perfectly. Unfortunately, this was kinda buggy in my game by what I assume was some unrigged vertices on the chest, but to be honest, I'm really not sure. I did get it to work, but then every subsequent time I've tried, it's just not really worked, so I don't know. The Fiend rags though take the form of a vest with some dungarees, and this might be my favourite Under Armour set in this mod. It really looks like something a Wastelander would wear, and it feels right at home in the Mojave. Then finally we have the road levers if you want a simple sleeveless leather outfit. In case you are worried about balance with this mod, well, I honestly don't blame you. Being able to wear armor over clothes can seem sort of concerning at first from a balance standpoint. But really these are surprisingly well integrated into the game, both with how you obtain them and how they fit into the gameplay. Stat-wise, the best set, unsurprisingly, is the reinforced metal armor parts, with the chest piece coming with a hefty 8 damage threshold, and the arms and legs both having a DT of 4. Of course, this does come with a pretty hefty weight to offset that, just like the vanilla armor has. So combat armor is probably the most optimal, as the only difference is the arms having a DT of 3 instead of 4. So you're only losing out on 1 damage threshold for a set that is a whole lot easier on your carry weight. The weakest here are the newly added Fiend sets, the lowest of which is the Mesh set, where each piece has a damage threshold of 1. Kind of expected because, you know, it's made out of mesh, but also it really sucks because all the Fiend sets do look really nice, but don't let the stats deter you from your wasteland fashion. The mod does have a soft requirement of armor damage overhaul, that basically completely replaces the vanilla game's armor damage system with a new scripted one, where instead of armor damage being calculated based off of the armor's DT and DR, and then the final health damage, it's instead calculated using the attacking weapon's own damage and then adjusted for the attacker's own stats. The main thing from this mod though is that it allows for more armor slots than just the head and body to receive damage, and for that damage to be localized to the spot depending on where you were hit. Without this mod installed alongside Patchwork Protection, then the newly added armor parts won't receive any damage to their health, allowing them to stay at max condition without needing to be repaired for essentially a full playthrough. So installing this mod alongside Patchwork Protection just helps balance them a bit more. As for acquiring these sets, the ones that are based off vanilla armors can be crafted at a workbench. By breaking down the full armor, you'll be able to scavenge one random part from the armor to use. They've also been integrated into the level list, so you'll be able to see these on Wastelanders and Raiders, making the mod also act as a sort of overhaul for the NPC gear too, which is really nice to see. With NPC groups like Fiends, Prospectors, even the Omertas and Kings being able to use some of this over armor, it makes their clothing choice in a largely hostile wasteland a lot more realistic. It also recreates that feeling of truly scavenging the wastes, wearing mismatched armor in order to get the best defense. The only other comparable mod to this that I know of is Tailor Made, which is an incredibly old mod that was originally made for Fallout 3 and then ported over to New Vegas. Similarly, it also features armor that can be worn over other sets, with the armor having more of a nif-bash feel than the custom armor piece's Patchwork protection provides. It also lacked any sort of levelist integration, which really made the mod a just for fashion sort of thing, which is what it was going for, and it did the job pretty well. But to be honest, Patchwork protection has just blown that mod out of the water in my opinion. You can of course use the two together though, there's nothing stopping you there. My only real complaint with Patchwork protection is that out of the box, the list of outfits that you can wear these armor parts over is surprisingly limited. I really thought I was going to be able to wander the waist in some reinforced sexy sleepwear, but alas. Thankfully, adding armors to the Under Armour list is incredibly easy, you just need to know its form ID. And from there you can add it to the list of allowed clothing, save the file, and that's it. A really easy solution to an issue that, to be honest, isn't even really an issue and is more of a nitpick than anything else. Whilst we're talking about the mods files, here's a good place to mention that you can configure where you want these armors to spawn in the mod's INI, allowing you to enable and disable specific types of NPCs that will wear this set, which is particularly useful if you're using, say, an Overhaul for one type that you don't want this mod messing with. You can also remove it from things like vendors inventories as well here. By default, everything is enabled, so you won't really have to touch this unless you have an issue with the armor appearing somewhere you don't want it to. Overall, this is a mod that I'd really recommend you pick up, especially if you're looking for one mod that will change a whole lot in both visual variety and gameplay. The variety of armor here and the new ones that have been added in really elevate this mod to a higher level than the concept already did. It's surprising that it took so long to get a mod like this, but I think it was well worth the wait, especially considering how seamlessly this one just fits into the Mojave, with all of the armors feeling right at home and something that could have been in the vanilla game. Okay, so I was basically done with this video when it came to my attention that there are actually other modular armor mods, although admittedly not to the same scale as a mod like Patchwork Protection. Ashen's modular NCR armor parts adds in a brand new merchant to the 188 trading post that specifically sells some newly added modular parts of your typical NCR armor. Chest plates, pockets, shoulder pads, and even the mantle can all be worn either standalone or together, so you can create your own NCR uniform essentially. Unlike Patchwork Protection, these can be worn over basically any armor. Of course though, it wouldn't be fair if there wasn't a Legion counterpart, which thankfully Ashen's has also provided, with the Legion Conquest armor. Similar to NCR mod, this also features an NPC, this time at the Legion raid camp who will sell you the items. Both of these mods are actually pretty cool, especially for those of you who want to do a Legion playthrough or an NCR one and represent the faction in the wastes without necessarily giving up on some good looking armor, allowing you to instead combine the two. Both of these mods do come with one curated outfit. For the NCR, it's this mishmash of the NCR armor over a Tunnel Snakes jacket, whereas the Legion get a Centurion armor set composed of scavenged NCR veteran ranger gear. As always, this mod and some of the others used in the video will be linked in the description below, and if you enjoyed, maybe consider liking or subscribing. But with all that being said, I hope to see you all next time.